Welcome to From the Trenches, success shortcuts revealed by real-world innovators crushing it right now. I'm your host, Scott Hartley, and we're back with another episode packed with actionable strategies from today's most successful entrepreneurs. If you're tired of generic business advice and ready for real cutting-edge tactics that are working right now, you're in the right place. Let me start off with a little story. I can't stand that guy. That's what my former client told me after I asked him why he unsubscribed from my emails. See, in one of my emails, I had recently shared some powerful takeaways I'd learned after watching a Grant Cardone video. This type of thing happens constantly in business. Entrepreneurs letting personal feelings block them from strategies that can transform their business simply because they dislike the messenger. And nowhere is this costly blind spot more evident than with Donald Trump. While many business owners dismiss him as just politics, he engineered the single most cost-effective marketing campaign in history, turning a $66 million investment into over $5.9 billion in free media exposure. And even his fiercest critics admit, I'm not a fan of his politics, but I am most certainly a fan of the excellent marketing lessons drawn from these examples. Businesses across the country are hemorrhaging potential customers every day. They ignore the proven tactics simply because they don't like their source. Well, today, my guest is ripping open the psychology behind 47 of Trump's battle-tested marketing techniques that are silently reshaping entire industries, while most small business owners stay trapped in their moral bubble. As one marketing expert confessed, every time I started shaking my head in disagreement, I realized this is exactly why these techniques work so devastatingly well. Can you afford to leave these weapons in your competitors' hands just because they make you uncomfortable? I hope not. I hope you'll stay open-minded as we listen to my friend and fellow Titan Accelerator member, Jack Turk. He's the former head copywriter for legendary marketer Dan Kennedy, and he's a guy who's helped sell millions in products with nothing but words. He's worked at Microsoft, and he's also performed as a professional magician. And now he's the author of MAGA Marketing Secrets, a no BS guide packed with 47 hard-hitting hacks inspired by Donald Trump's biggest branding and marketing moves. Whether you love or hate Trump, Jack's here to show you how to grab attention, build loyalty, and win in business faster, louder, and bolder than your competition. Jack, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Oh, Scott, what a thrill to be here with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned in the opening, is that it really is a disservice to us as business owners if we stay closed-minded and we don't look for ways to learn from people that we may not necessarily agree with on any, really level.
Mhm.
And I think, what you're doing here with this book of tapping into what did Donald Trump do to get a second term in office? What did he do to get his first term in office? I think that that's really, really insightful, and that you've, taken a look at this from a marketing lens and seeing like, how can we like leverage this in our businesses? And so I guess the first question that I really want to ask is like, why the daring choice to go into this realm where like, oh my gosh, I'm jumping into the political arena, and that that people have strong feelings on both sides of the fence?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. I have jumped in the political arena before. I actually ran for public office in
Okay.
2007 basically as a sacrificial lamb candidate for the local Snohomish County GOP.
Hmm.
We didn't have anybody running for county executive, and my buddy was the vice chair, and we're just sitting around having a few beers. And he said, Jack, why don't we got, because the guy who was going to run was the ex-sheriff, and he just bailed. He bailed and left them high and dry. So it's coming up election time, and it's going to kind of chat. And he said, Jack, why don't you run? I said, you are out of your flipping mind. This is the last thing I want to do is run for office. But he kind of
uh,
convinced me. Maybe he bought me another couple of beers. I don't know what it was. But regardless, I took that on, and it was an amazing experience. I mean, I was the sacrificial lamb because I had no money. I didn't take. I know he was an entrenched incumbent and really a good candidate. I mean, really smart and good look, tall, good look. I mean, charisma. Good Lord. I mean, what
Had everything going for him, right?
everything going for him, and I'm like this little troll, whatever. So I run for office but I actually had our goal was like have a lot of fun, make him spend all his money so he couldn't give it to other candidates, and just see what happened. And so I got I didn't take any money. I only spent like $1,000 the entire campaign. I got almost over 40% of the vote, probably because that just tells you how many Republicans there are in the county. But still, I got 70,000 votes on $1,000.
Wow.
And I did some really interesting things. I did this was back 2007. So I ran like Google AdWords, a pay-per-click campaign on his name.
Yep.
So when people searched his name, it went to a website that I created. About it, blah, 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 blah. So I did a lot of kind of fun things like that. I'm pretty good in person too, so I had a lot of fun at stand-up meetings and stuff. So I'm not afraid anymore of jumping into the fray. And the reason I wrote this book specifically, I came out of Funnel Hacking Live in February, and I'm sitting at the airport getting ready to come home, and I just had this note. Has anybody written a book about Donald Trump's marketing lessons? And I looked and there was nothing. There was just nothing. And I've been thinking about this for a long because we just kind of had just finished the campaign, and there were so many moments that were just iconic in the 24 campaign. And you can hate him and that's fine, or you can love him and that's fine, or you can be in between. I don't know if there's anybody in between.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Wherever you're at, okay? But you have to give the devil his due, and he was able to create moments that were unbelievable in terms of attention grabbing and sucking all the oxygen out of the air. And I thought, well, I want to get the book done by the 100th day. So originally, I'm giving you a lot of background information. I had 100 hacks. I came up with 100 hacks, and I was kind of getting closer and closer, and I'm going, no way am I going to finish this. And so this is my project manager Microsoft hack came back on and said, well, what's most important? The due date. Fast, good, cheap, pick two. So I picked two. That's so fast. It had to be fast and as good as I could make it, as cheap as whatever. So I jettisoned like a bunch of hacks and came up with number 47 for obvious reasons. It just made sense. And I was able to crank it out in 2 months. Really, it's a 2-month book, maybe a little over 2 months, but just about 2 months. I was able to create this book and get it out to market, and it was a lot of fun. Boy, I learned a lot from the process too.
Oh, I'm sure, because once you kind of like start studying what he did and how he did it and why and all of that, you can go down a lot of rabbit trails with that, I'm sure.
Sure. And I did a lot of research. I'm going to be very upfront. I have some journalistic background, so I did real journalism in this book, and I did research. I found a couple of interviews with people who were on the campaign. They're extensive interviews. I found lots of news articles. There are lots of things that people mentioned and stuff. And then, I'll be honest, I've been following Trump for years, so I actually remembered stuff. One of the incidents in the book, for example, the hack. I can't give you the number of the hack right now, just off the top of my head. Oh yeah, it was a hack 17. Ignore criticism, control the narrative, and that went back to it was a moment from the first. You mentioned the first campaign, and I think this was a defining moment. Especially it was for me, because I'll admit, we already said I'm a Republican. All right, so this was during the primaries, and you had Ted Cruz and Rubio and all the guys standing up on stage with the primary thing, and the GOP was, I'll admit, they were like skeptical of this guy. You got this New York developer who was hanging out, who's like, who's he? And the Cruz came at him during the debate with like, we don't need Donald Trump and his New York values. And that's the criticism. And that was a pretty, a lot of us, I'll admit, watching that went, yeah, I agree. We don't. And Trump came back with a response on, well, let me tell you about New York values. When 9/11 happened, this city came back from the ashes. It came together. We restored hope. We restored vitality. We became a beacon of opportunity and optimism for the entire planet. Those are the kind of New York values I'm bringing to this candidacy. And I just sat there going, wow.
Shut down the competent, all the critics, right?
And no, it just hammered. That was, I couldn't imagine such a great answer. That
Yeah.
was that was an insanely great answer. And that's when I started to realize just how good this guy was
Hmm.
on his feet and knowing how to connect and on something that mattered to the audience. Because that certainly mattered to the audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, just taking an objective view, no matter where you stand on this, like, I don't know that in the past 5 years or more, or actually what, his first term started when, 2016?
2017, essentially.
2017. So, I mean, you think, 2015, 2016, I don't remember, exactly when he first, was candidate. But in the last 10 years, has there been a single day where he's not been mentioned in the news? I
Oh,
mean,
no.
can we think of a time, for our businesses, like we're having a hard time just getting to show up in the news or anywhere, but this guy has somehow for 10 years been the topic of conversation, and then like he's not paying for the majority of that, and it's like there's so much opportunity to learn from here that we can tie this to our businesses. How do we get not necessarily the same level and not necessarily the same type of buzz that Donald Trump's getting,
Right.
because we may not want that, but how do we get buzz going about our products or services, how we, serve, what we stand for, all of that type of stuff.
It's so important. You hit the nail on the head there, Scott. I was thinking about this. Another reason I wrote this book is I just so passionately believe in small business. I care about small business, and like I'm a small business, and I write copy for small businesses. I have done for years, and and I love small businesses, and they face such difficult challenge. It's such an uphill battle for a small business to get noticed. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we're not like, Coca-Cola or Ford or whomever it is with billion-dollar ad budgets.
Mm-hmm.
We're just little guys and gals, and we have what we have. And there's so much noise coming at our prospects and potential customers all the time. How do you break through? And that's why I think the lessons of this book are so valuable. That the Trump was so amazing and great at consistently hitting very simple principles, leveraging simple principles, but doing them over and over and over and over again with such power and consistency and effect. And they're the same things. Any business can do these things.
Yeah, and it's getting more difficult. I mean, if you think, people are doing social media marketing, I mean, how crowded is that space? You're competing, on ad space, ad costs are going up on social media marketing. So how do you stand out on social media? Email is, my space. It's like, that's getting more challenging as well with all of the new rules and the best practices and the
Oh,
regulations and stuff. So how do you stand out in the inbox? How do you get people to engage with your emails? Like, it's getting tougher all the way around, but knowing how to really be kind of contrarian to a degree and approach things from a different angle can give you a leg up, right?
oh,
With your
absolutely.
marketing. So, what I'd like to do is just kind of like touch upon, what are like the top three of your most impactful hacks that you feel could move the needle for the small business listeners that are listening today, that, like they could take this and they could go as soon as they're done listening to this podcast, there's something that they could do.
I think one of the first ones would be it's hack number two, which is ditch the script. And I think this is something that Trump does so well. He is he's real. And whether you like the real him or not, I mean, and there's a lot. I'll be honest. There, I'm a different guy. Okay.
Right?
To be totally honest, self promotion does not come natural to me, Scott.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
not
me either.
naturally a big bombastic, but he was so good at being authentic, and I think that is so important today,
Mhm.
especially we have gone through so much in the last couple decades. I mean, in terms of we've been lied to, we've been fed nonsense, we've been disappointed. People we put up on pedestals have obviously been disasters, and over and over and over again. And so this carefully crafted, positioned, well thought through, positioned, stuff that we try to put out there, nobody buys it.
Hmm.
It's just nobody buys it anymore. What's he hide? What's he trying to hide? I mean, that's what they're going to say. Okay, and I try as much to be me. Okay, I was actually on a client call, yes, a prospect call yesterday. Somebody called, and I admitted I don't have this. I don't have this consult the consult script, where you go, let's lead you through. Let me ask the probing questions, then come up like that, then lead naturally into the close, and yeah, I don't have any of that. I
Hmm.
just that's not. Maybe I should probably, but I don't, and I'm very transparent. I just have what I have. I am, and I think that works. It's
Hmm.
always worked for me. I've never had. Sometimes people can't afford me. That's fine, but I don't have people because I didn't give them a carefully scripted pitch. Maybe I'd be killing it if I had a carefully scripted pitch, and that's totally legit, a legit criticism, possibly. But being real, being yourself, being authentic, you know, instead of like spending like weeks and thousands of dollars on a video to put on your site, grab your iPhone, stick it in front of your face, talk to them. Well, hey, you know what? We've got the very best deal possible today. And if you come on in, talk to me, we'll make it work. Okay. And that's old fashioned sales. My dad was a car salesman. And I
Okay.
learned I'm bragging about my dad. He's been gone long forever. Been gone forever. But he would sell 300 to 500 cars a year for 10 years in a town of 2,000 people.
Wow.
10 years, 300 to 500 cars a year, 2,000 people. We had more hogs in the area than we had people, by far. But he told me the way he did it was he just was honest with people, and he gave them the very best deal he could. And they
Hmm.
tell their friends, they tell their friends. And I think that's salesmanship. In my mind, that's salesmanship 101. Be honest, be yourself, be real, give them the best deal you can.
Yeah.
And so I think so that's a great hack. I think ditch
Yeah.
the script's a good one. I'm
Hey,
looking for something.
I want to just kind of like comment that authenticity piece that you mentioned is so critical today. Because like you said, a lot of businesses that they want to put on this, this facade. This is how we are, this is how we do business, and have everything all polished. But people really gravitate towards the imperfections. I'm on several email lists of different people, and it kind of endears me to them more when they admit, like, hey, I did this and it flopped. This didn't work the way that I expected it to. Or, hey, I made a mistake. It shows that we're human and we can connect with them, because if somebody's up in an ivory tower and they're always perfect and they're putting on this good show, it kind of creates this barrier that it's like, oh, I can never attain that, or that, that's just not who I can be. And it just kind of creates this disconnect. Whereas, like you said, with Donald Trump, I mean, yeah, he may have teleprompters, but I don't think he really looks at them. He goes on his own thing. And, yeah, he says some crazy stuff, and then maybe kind of has to walk it back a little bit later, or whatever. But people can relate to that. And if we're truly authentic in business, we're going to be attracting people, to us, and building that relationship, as opposed to, just putting our stuff out there and hoping that it
Mhm.
sticks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I also think just on a side note, in this age of AI, we're going to see more and more and more AI generated content.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed to it. I'll be honest. I'm not at all anti AI. I think it's an amazing technology, and there's amazing They're amazing tools that you can get so much value and leverage from as a small business owner. So I'm not going to discount it at all. Having said that, you want to use it strategically and wisely to
Hmm.
help bring forward the reality of who you are as a human being. Because the further away we get from actual, we got bots talking to bots, selling to bots, hiring bots, buying bots, selling, bots going bankrupt, etc. Whatever it turns into, just two people talking like this
Yeah.
is going to become so much more appealing and authentic and powerful. So I'm, without a doubt.
Yeah. So what's a second hack that you discovered that you think would be applicable to small businesses immediately?
I think hack number 26, which is pack a wallop. Now, this is something Trump does so well in how he doesn't just provide, we're going to create a plan to circumvent legislation or judicial interference and obfuscate the ability to get inside our country's border. He said, we're going to build a wall. We're going to shut down the border. We're going to create the golden age of America. He uses phrases that are powerful, direct, straightforward, have emotion in them,
Hmm.
and tie to what people want. That's something we can all do in our messaging and start thinking about. Is what we're saying really hammering home the who of who we are and the why it matters so much to the person we're talking to? And that's something Trump does so well, and we can certainly learn that lesson. I give an example. I think different companies do, uh, Apple with their campaign, um,
The Think Different.
the Think Different campaign was so brilliant. Two words, and all those different iconic figures of history.
Yeah.
I mean, who did not want to resonate? Oh, yes, I want to think different like Einstein. I want to think different like Amelia Earhart. I want to think different like Picasso. I want to be in that class, that category of humanity. And what a powerful rallying cry and building your brand. And even something Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas,
Right.
not not necessarily, the value system I want to promote myself, but still it's such a clear, concrete statement of being for them. You
Hmm.
know what Vegas is.
Yeah.
Versus Disney, like the happiest place on earth. Such a concrete statement of being. This is what we give you.
Hmm.
This is why you're here. So pack a wallop. Do whatever you can to make sure your words, your taglines, your calls to action, the way you name products, the way you name your websites, the URLs you choose, pack a wallop.
Yeah. When you talk about naming your products, like one of the services that I provide, I named a level of service as the Hit the Inbox Successful Sender Plan.
Perfect.
Do
Yes.
you
Yeah.
want to be if you're doing email marketing and email communication, do you want to be a successful sender? Well, yeah, I do. Okay, this is the plan for you. It clearly identifies who people really want to be. And if you look around, I mean, you picked out Apple, you picked out Disney, you picked out Las Vegas, even Nike. Just do it. A simple
Mm-hmm.
phrase that's
Mm-hmm.
like, here's what we're about. We're an athletic apparel company that are going to help you just do whatever it is that you want to do, excel at sports or whatever. If we can, do that in our businesses, and I think a piece of this too is keeping it simple. I think a lot of people view Trump as, uneducated, stupid, because he doesn't use these flowery words or the big words. It's very simple. Build the wall, shut down the border. And anybody who's got training in copywriting like you do know that you need to write at a fourth, fifth, sixth grade level. Keep it simple so that everybody can understand it. We don't need to, make it that you have to have a college degree.
Mm-hmm. You don't want to try to dazzle them with
Yeah.
your vernacular. that gets you nowhere. That honestly, that you're not. You want to connect with them. You want to hit
Yeah.
them right between the eyes, so they remember.
Yeah.
And
And, one of the things when I wrote my book is I went back and I made sure that I was using a lot of active language in the book. So, if we all go back to our days of English class, you've got your active verbs and then you've got all the linking verbs. A lot of times when we speak, we use a lot of linking verbs, but what really grabs and keeps our attention are the active verbs. And so when we're crafting our various messaging, the more active verbs that we can use, that's what's actually going to pack that wallet that you're talking about. And then how can you pick the right word to communicate that concept that you're trying to convey, right? And so like all of that really plays into that. And if you study great copywriters like yourself and you look at how does Donald Trump and other people that are effective in their messaging, look at the words that they use and figure out like how can I put that into my messaging, right?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's lots of things you can do, and I do. Well, I just got I got complimented by Dan Kennedy on the title for my book.
Mm-hmm.
I meant I pounded on different versions of that title. I got MAGA Marketing Secrets. I mean, I bought the URL magamarketingsecrets.com
Mm-hmm.
while sitting at the airport and, after funnel hacking live
Yeah.
because I knew I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the book MAGA Marketing Secrets. But I had the subtitle. I went through probably 50 iterations, different versions, and et
Mm-hmm.
cetera, before I came up with the one I came up with. Um, 47 Trump tested hacks for building a big, beautiful business.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan loved, by the way, Dan loved that title. Just
Yeah.
thinks the title was, when I mentioned it, I actually got on a diamond call with him, got to ask him about the book and stuff. And he said, as soon as I rattled that off, he said, great title.
Nice.
Yeah. But I thought, but with the number, it's got an odd number in it.
Yep.
Trump tested. It brings Donald into it.
Mm-hmm.
Tested. Hacks is a very specific word. I've used hacks in a previous book, but I like hacks because it means you can do this, okay?
Yeah.
For building a big, beautiful business. Now, I like the alliteration,
Mm-hmm.
building big, beautiful business, all B's. But big, beautiful is like, again, one of the Trump's signature lines. So
Yep.
I kept, so all that was very carefully crafted,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't happen overnight. I'll be totally honest in that. But I
Yeah.
banged on it and banged on it until I got some. I'm pretty happy with the title. Now,
Yeah. That's fantastic. So what's a third hack that you've discovered that would be practical?
I got a couple. They're kind of at the end, and maybe I'll give you the number. Forget the number. I got my cheat sheet here. Hang on. Hack number 46. I think it's the one root that I really resonate with. Ruthlessly execute.
Hmm.
And big thinking requires bold action. And it came to me when I just watch Trump has got this ability. He's got a skin that's thick as a rhino's hide. And he can, it just, all the criticism, all the negativity, all the hatred, all of it just rolls off. He doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me of a book I read called Thick Face Black Heart. I can't remember the name of the author. I mentioned it in the book. She was, I think she was a Chinese woman. She passed away. But the concept of thick face black heart is a thick face means you are immune to criticism and don't care what other people think. The negativity that people throw at you, you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And a black heart means you are willing to abandon all, emotion about what people think of you in order to accomplish the greater purpose, the
Mm-hmm.
greater mission. And her example was a surgeon when they have to do heart surgery has got that scalpel in hand, and that moment where you have to take that scalpel and slice down the abdomen, and you're doing this to save that person's life, and you're potentially killing them, and and there's all sorts of horrible things can happen when you do that, but this is an act that has to be done for the greater mission, the greater good. And so a surgeon has a thick-faced black heart that I know, regardless of what happens, this must be done. I'm going to do it. And so ruthlessly executing means it's not cold, it's not sinister. There's nothing, malevolent about it whatsoever. It's all about having the willingness to ignore what people say. I ran for office. Somebody actually created a hate site, when I ran for
Wow.
office, which was really wonderful. It was wonderful. I was like, holy, how can anybody hate me? I'm a nice guy, but like I got like, oh, well, that's interesting. Okay. But having the ability to go, make your way through that. Trump is so amazing at being able to let that just roll off him. I don't know in his dark, the middle of the night, whether it does get to him or not in his heart of hearts. Who knows? Nobody knows. You don't know anybody's thoughts. Nobody knows anybody's thoughts. But boy, and externally, he's able to get things done. He does things. And this is the whole thing about me doing, I'm just going to blow my own horn about getting this book done.
Mhm.
I was scared. You mentioned at the beginning, it was just, it was kind of like controversial. So, I was scared, and I honestly, I'm jumping into a major phase of promotion, and I'm one of the people don't like this. I know,
Mhm.
but I'm going to ruthlessly execute the plan because I think the bigger goal matters. The bigger goal to me is obviously sell a ton of books, of course, that's self-serving, etc. But I mean, I think these lessons are so valuable. This book really had to be written by somebody,
Yeah.
and it's an important book, and it's an important book. I try to make it as accessible to everybody as possible. It's very tight, concise, to the point, very action oriented, as you mentioned, lots of action verbs,
Mhm.
and I tried to make it really useful because I thought it had to be. I ruthlessly, this is again a Microsoft lesson too, anybody can get a project to 90%.
Mhm.
Anybody, but only great program managers, project managers can get it across the finish line.
Hmm.
Getting it across the finish line, you get into ship mode, is what we called it, and you just basically had to abandon all your darlings that mattered so much to you. No, I'm going to ship this product. I'm going to finish this soft. I'm going to get this book done now, and it's going to happen. It may not be perfect, but I'm going to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important, and something that us as small business owners, especially, we're pulled in so many different directions, right? We've got so many hats that we wear, so many things that we have to take care of, fires to put out, customers to serve, staff to take care of. Um, that a lot of times we have great intentions, we start stuff, but then we don't actually follow through and actually get it finished. And if we look at our desk and on our computers, like there's so many half started things and it's like, oh man, if we would just take the time and just focus and finish that one thing, maybe that's the one thing that would make a huge difference in the trajectory of our business, right?
Hmm.
Is that ruthless aspect of it. And I think something that you mentioned too, um, you know you were talking about the surgeons and that they're if somebody is in need of heart surgery or whatever type of surgery that it is, they are inflicting a wound. They've got to make that incision. They've got to cut. But ultimately, it's going to fix the problem. If you're going in for heart surgery, they got to access the heart, so there's got to be a cut somewhere, right? And so there's going to be some pain involved with that. Usually afterwards. And I think through the times that we're going through right now. Now, none of us have a crystal ball, but Trump was dead set and he's followed through, is like, we're tariffing everybody else in the world. Now, whatever those percentages are, that changes from minute to minute. But he's like, we are going to fix the economy of the United States. And in his mind, this is the way that it needs to be done. And he's willing, and he's come out numerous times and said, I'm willing to endure all of the experts saying, hey, this is going to tank our economy, it's going to send us into a recession and all of that type of stuff. And he acknowledges, is like, there's probably going to be some turbulence through this. Like, yeah, we may end up going into a recession. Is that okay? And he answered, yeah, I think it is for the long term result that I want. And I feel like whether you agree with his policies or not, or the way that they're being done, I don't know if too many people, especially in the political or public arena, let alone business owners, who are willing to take that stand and believe so much in their vision that they're willing to walk through the fire and do everything that they can to achieve what it is that they want. And I think so many of us get turned back by the first signs of resistance, whatever that resistance may look like. And we just give up. It's like, okay, let's go back and do things the way that they've always been done, or let's not push that issue or that thing forward. And that's something that as entrepreneurs and business owners, I think we do a huge disservice to ourselves. Not that we necessarily have to go to, and again, what Trump is doing with tariffs, maybe it is going to be disastrous on the other side of it.
Yeah.
History will tell. We don't know. Nobody knows. But you have to give him credit. He's doing what he said he was going to do, and he believes in it so much that he's pushing forward. And that's a lesson that I feel like you and I can take as business owners, is push through the hard times, right?
Right. I mean, it's so important. And I mentioned another hack I wrestled with is 43, which is rise again. You will have hard times, and Trump, good Lord, he had hard times,
Yeah.
and he got knocked down. He got
Oh, he almost got assassinated.
The mug shot, the lawsuits, lost all everything. Oh, okay. Rise again. Persist. Having the courage to persist, choosing a direction, and maybe the future will prove that nope, it was the wrong direction. Well, you know what? If that's another great lesson in business. If you are clearly, driving out into the ocean and starting to sink, maybe it's time to turn around. Okay.
Right.
Be wise, but also understand, no matter if you're going off in a different direction, if you're going off in a direction and you're getting some flack, well, if you're getting flack, as I used to say, that means you're over the target.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And I think too that, what some of the things, the interesting part is, and I'm just going to, call this out because I'm sure that there are probably listeners that, that absolutely don't like Trump. The hacks that you've identified in this book, they're bold. Many of them are bold. And, there are things that we, may make us a little bit uncomfortable as business owners to do, especially if we're kind of introverts, kind of like myself. But you don't have to be as extreme as Donald Trump in many ways to implement, all 47 of these hacks. It's just, moving the needle a little bit, and you can implement these things, to the level that you're comfortable. But if you do them, it will move the needle in your business. You will see positive results. You will see changes that are going to reap the rewards and the benefits of being able to, get more eyeballs on your business, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I reviewed all these hacks and all these lessons from, several decades of direct response marketing experience. And so I'm looking at that from within that lens.
Yeah.
And everything I'm seeing is like, yeah, that's Dan Kennedy. Oh no, that's Gary Halbert, or whomever, that these are things that the legends of marketing have been saying over and over to do. And Trump's implementing them and making them very apparent, very visual, very widespread, and they should be taken as examples and models, not necessarily to steal or go to the same extremes or whatever, but like, for example, if one of them is, again, like, create a signature look Okay.
Hmm.
Do you have a signature look? Now I got the hat and I brought the monocle, but I didn't put it on. So I could have brought the monocle, But I I've created now that's not of course when I was a when I was a Turk the genie, I used to have a goofy hat too. I got that from
Uh-huh.
could have stuck that on too. That's a different thing. But this is again, I did it when I was again. Actually, that's a good example. I wasn't a magician. I wasn't like an average magician. I was a genie,
Hmm.
and I had sparkly vest and a big old goofy turban, and I had a specific framing
Hmm.
that was not your average magician. So whether are you going to be like the average, roof roofer? You're going to be the average roofer, or are you
Hmm.
going to be something totally different? And how can you make yourself stand out? How can you
Yeah.
be bold, in that industry? So you're not just another one of a thousand bland options.
Right. Yeah. One of the things I love about your book is that number one, it's very easy to read. Each of the hacks is relatively short, and you can read a number of them in a very short period of time. But you break down, the lesson, or the illustration, of Trump. Here's how he's demonstrated this hack. What's the lesson that we can learn from that? And then you also pull in, here are other examples that we see other businesses using this hack. Here's how they're doing it. So, like you mentioned, Apple, Disney, Nike, different places, so that you can see in the real world with real businesses how this is being implemented and being valuable for them.
Now, I wanted to make sure it wasn't just theory. I hate. I'm a big fan. I got all kinds of theories. I got who doesn't have theories. But it's always nice to see how does this play out in like on the ground. You
Hmm.
know, how does this play out in what we call the real world? Like who knows reality? What a concept! I think we just say that. Okay, but anyway, but like, it's a concept. But it's a concept. But you know what? The concept pays your bills. So
Yeah.
so who's doing like I like Progressive for example to like uses humor brilliantly.
Hmm.
Their flow ads they're just so good. Geico is really with a little lizard. It's so fun. They're so good, and they still have the direct response principles, calls to actions in their commercials. So they
Hmm.
haven't abandoned all direct response marketing concepts in going off in this direction. They're just layering. It's layering. This is a matter of you take a solid business and you start layering these marketing principles on top of them, and then you can take that business to greater results and reach and benefit and et cetera to your customers and to yourself in response.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jack, this has been a great conversation. I hope that everybody will, go check out your book. And, again, we've got to keep an open mind. Even if it's people that we don't necessarily like, there's a lot that we can learn from other people. And so I really hope that, if you've stuck with us in this podcast this long, that you'll at least go check out the book and see what you can learn there. And I know that you've got a special landing page that you've created that's got a special resource and kind of a unique type of thing that you're trying to accomplish. Tell us a little bit about that and where people can go to find it.
All right. Well, you are actually the first person, one of the first people to get in on this. Um, I've done several books. I've never done this kind of launch. Well, obviously, this is like a launch that is to about a very specific individual and on a
Hmm.
different. So my goal is I want to get this book. Actually, do I have a picture? Do I have a copy of this book? I got a copy of this book someplace. I'll hold it up. Here we go. Copy of the book. There. I want to get this book into Donald Trump's hands. That is my mission by July 4th, 2025. So I created a page, OperationOvalOffice.com. And on Operation Oval Office, you'll find out about what I'm trying to do to get this book in Donald Trump's hands, how you can help me get this book in Donald Trump's hands, and possibly even get a day's worth of consulting from me, a $5,000 value, if you are able to provide the one switch that flips the switch, the one key that flips the switch to me getting the book. Maybe it's a contact you have, maybe it's a message you share, maybe you're friends with RFK Jr. I don't know. Maybe, maybe Pam Bondi, the Attorney General's your sister. I don't know who it is, but whatever. If you can get this book into Donald Trump's hands and show it to me, I'll give you a full day of consulting, and I'm good at, copywriting, direct response marketing, funnels, public speaking. I'm not too bad at public speaking, and heck, project management, AI and automation development, and even I'll even toss in some card tricks. What the heck?
Hey, there we go. Learn how to be a magician, right?
I'll do some card tricks even. Oh boy, woohoo! But it's at operationovaloffice.com, and it talks about the book. You can find out there's a page, there's a little menu at the top there, and as you get to, there's a thing on the book and stuff, and but that's kind of the whole thing. There's if you just go there and you want to follow this campaign, because I'm going to try. It's like at this point we're about 2 months away, so I'm going to try to get this in his hands. So I'm going to be posting about this regularly and writing emails talking about the process, some stuff behind the scenes. If you want to find out that, in exchange for your email, I'll give you like it's a report. It's basically a cheat sheet of 7 different questions you must ask yourself. Mega marketing questions to ask yourself. And each one of those, here's the question. It gives you like basically, and your answer is rated either sad, it's weak, or it's huge. So your response is one of the 3. And depending on where you're at, I also provide an AI prompt that you can dump into ChatGPT that will help you go from sad to huge in answering that question. So it's kind of it's not just like a book. I mean, or a little report. It's got some interactive tools built in. And that's my gift to you for like signing up and like finding out about the book and this mission to get this into, the Golden Scalp Weasel's hands. I mean, that's
Very awesome. Well, I encourage you to check that out. That's operationovaloffice.com. We'll make sure that we put the link into the chat. And I would love one of my podcast listeners to actually be able to make that happen. There's got to be somebody out there in my network here that has some sort of connection, even if it's a 5th one away, that can help Jack get his book in Donald Trump's hands. And who knows, maybe even get some pictures taken in the Oval Office, get a special invite or something, right?
Hey, anything's possible, and I just the whole thing. Dream bigger. Now is the age to dream bigger.
Yep.
Sam Altman of OpenAI said he and his buddies have got a running bet right now of who's going to be the first single person billion-dollar business.
Yeah.
Thanks to AI and its capabilities.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you dream big? Why not?
Yeah, because the sky's the limit. And I mean, there's so much opportunity that we all have today. And it's just a matter, are we going to chase after those dreams? For sure. Well, Jack, I really appreciate the time that you spent here with us today. A lot of good stuff. We only, got to 3 of the hacks that you have in your book. So definitely check out Jack's book, MAGA Marketing Secrets. Pick up a copy. It's a quick read. You can read it, in a day. You can read it over the course of a weekend. But more importantly than just reading it, make sure that you start to apply the hacks that he puts in there. Just 1 or 2 can make a big difference in your business. And speaking of books, if you're looking to supercharge your email marketing, you can check out mine, Hit the Inbox, at hittheinboxbook.com. It's packed with 76 pages of strategies to get your emails landing in inboxes and driving sales. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform. It helps us reach more entrepreneurs like you. And until next time, keep crushing it in the trenches.